What's up, everybody? My name is Fabian Lile. You know what time it is. It's Kids on the Stoop. New episode. I'm so excited to talk to you guys and talk to our guest today about our topic today, which is about dramaturgy. As you can see the title, I cast dramaturgy. What is dramaturgy? We're going to find out today. But before that, I want you to meet one of the most insane performers that I've ever had a chance to share a table with. Insane in a good way. They are very thoughtful, and they know how to bring the drama. C, please introduce yourself. Tell our viewers who you are. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you, Fab. That was you work with so many amazing folks, so to get such high praise is a badge of honor for me. Hey everyone, my name is C, like the ocean. I use they them pronouns, and I am so psyched to be here. I am a dramaturg, performance artist, scholar by trade. I work primarily with Transplanar RPG, which is where you probably know me if you do know me, but if you don't know me, pleasure to make your introduction. And I am so psyched to talk about quite literally my favorite topic in all of actual play thought and theory. So I'm so down and so ready for this.
I am so excited to get into the nitty-gritty of this because a lot of people don't really know what it is and don't really know the benefits of it, especially in TTRPGs and actual play, both as a performing standard or even just having it in your home game. But before that, let's get to knowing you more. So you mentioned Transplanar. I knew you from Transplanar, sure. But for people who didn't know, what is Transplanar, and like how did you start your journey with Transplanar?
Yeah, fantastic question. So if you don't know, Transplanar, I'm going to do the spiel.
Yes,
Transplanar is an all-transgender, person of color-led actual play series set in a non-colonial, anti-Orientalist multiverse. It is produced, run, executively run, and created by Connie Chong. And I serve as a kind of co-producer, assistant director, and dramaturg, as well as a performer with Transplanar. So we've done, at this point, 2 major, like long-form series, 2 short-term series, and 2 of them being God Killer, 1 being originally a homebrew D&D game, and now we play a multi-system long-form campaign where every arc uses a different TTRPG system, which is really cool and fun. In terms of where my journey with Transplanar began with Connie in particular. If you don't know, now you know. Connie and I have been dating for almost 7 years at this point. 7 or 8? Woo! Something like that. Thank you. So that actually predates Transplanar, which is just over 5 years old at this point. So at some point, Connie, we played a few home games together in college. Connie introduced me to tabletops in the first place. And after we did kind of with my friends and our friends in college, our first game, we moved to Minneapolis. And then in Minneapolis, Connie was like, I want to make a D&D podcast because this shit is way too white and way too straight and way too cis. And I know I can do it. Connie is a fantastic storyteller in all forms. Is a poet, is a screenwriter, is a academic of like so many incredible things. It's just really, really strong at the form of storytelling. It was like, I want to make an actual play. I know I can do it. It could be really great. We found some folks in Minneapolis all together, and we were like, okay, we're going to do it. Kind of right before the pandemic hit, and particularly my journey with Transplanar began with me Connie introducing the idea, and I said, okay, well, I guess I'll play in it as long as I don't have to do any work. So and we can see lo and behold, we can see how well that turned out for me. Clearly that did not stick, because I also really love storytelling. And just kind of from step by step, Transplaner really evolved and turned into one of the most powerful tools for storytelling and being able to express my own stories, my own art form in a way that I kind of never thought I could reach for and find and have. But the early beginnings were kind of in our little studio apartment in Minneapolis, going,
Yeah.
okay, but what if we did? What if we could? And then we did, and we could, and I'm really proud of. Bao Bao. Okay. Introduction necessary. Bao Bao, assistant
yeah.
dramaturg of Transplaner RPG,
Aw.
is here now.
It's so funny that you mentioned that you didn't want to do work and just
Yeah.
perform. And I think I think it's for the better that you did end up doing all the work that you've done for Transplaner. Because obviously I've seen a lot of your shows. I have wished to just see behind the scenes, but I've already heard, we share a lot of friends, and I've heard the ways that you guys talk about and deal with like dramaturgy and like the story and having like this story keeper of sorts. So let's get into the nitty gritty of like what we're hoping to talk about today, which is dramaturgy. This is a term that, even though I was in theater in like high school and college, I never really ran into this term. And when I learned that you do this in particular for Transplaner, I was actually I was just shocked that I'm like, why didn't I know this before? So please tell us, what is dramaturgy?
Fantastic question. So I actually pulled up the Wikipedia definition of dramaturgy, which I'll read out, and then we can kind of talk about what dramaturgy means to me and how I think about it. So
Yes,
dramaturgy is defined as the study of dramatic composition and the representation of the main elements of drama on the stage. The role of a dramaturg in the field of modern dramaturgy is to help realize the multifaceted world of the play. It's a theater term, for a production using information from the script, playwright, and the context in which the play was written. The dramaturg's job is to assist the director and playwright, especially if the culture of the play is not fully experienced by these people. So essentially, a dramaturg is somebody who is really keyed into the themes of a work, particularly a performance work that is going to be embodied by multiple different people through direction, through playwriting, through performance, and through actors as well. And the dramaturg's role is to help guide and to help frame the story itself, kind of the heart and the spirit of the story itself, so that it is portrayed and given to the audience in the clearest way possible that is most aligned with that heart of the story. So in terms of dramaturgy for actual play, I think like the simplest kind of definition that I've been able to cut down to is that my role as the dramaturg is to make sure, again, very similarly, that every performer, every player, and the GM are able to fully realize and fully express their stories in the most cogent, cohesive, and narratively satisfying way possible, while staying true to the entire table's desires for the direction of the story.
Okay. See, that's really interesting because, like, I think plays are narratives on rails for sure. There's a script, there's direction, there's an expectation of what drama is, and definitely, I think the function of dramaturge definitely differs.
Oh yeah.
So, like, how would you differentiate? Like, I mean, you've been doing this before actual play, or have you just like got into this, like, kind of like picked up the mantle when you saw the need for it in Transplaner?
Ooh, it's kind of a little bit of a both and. I never Well, actually, I would be lying to you if I said that. I have taken on kind of the role of the dramaturg before. Before I was part of actual play, my experience with theater and with performance is very odd and a little bit backwards. I didn't really get to do or have the experience of like traditionally training in any particular forms of performance. Like I didn't do high school theater, I didn't do like classical ballet or anything. But I did, when I was 19, join a site-specific Polish experimental folk opera on tour. And they taught me, and I did stilt walking when I was in high school. So this kind of like very experimental way of thinking about performance that led me to getting a dance degree in college. I studied dance history and performance theory through like the lens of critical social thought.
Nice.
So kind of my experience with art, generally speaking, is very much rooted in thinking very deeply about what art means. It kind of has just always been what I like to do. When I read a book, when I watch a movie, when I watch a TV show, when I go see a play, like I like to engage very deeply with what I'm seeing around me. And I think that dramaturgy just naturally asks you to do the same thing. So even when I didn't know that I was doing dramaturgy, I can look back and say like, oh no, that is what I was doing. Those were like things that interested me. Those were directional pushes that I was following and finding where I was like, yeah, no, it matters to me, not just how I'm performing and the craft of like, I can raise my arm out this way and do a plie, right? But also, what does it mean to me? What is the driving emotion? What is the story that I'm telling? What is the heart of what this performance means to me? And that kind of has just followed me, haunted me really through my entire experience with any kind of performance, from freak Polish folk operas to actual play. And I did in undergrad also kind of work as my own dramaturg in a lot of ways, kind of rooting and keeping clear when I was choreographing my own like senior thesis pieces, other dance works that I was in, to have really strong thematic voice at sometimes even superseding the technical form of what I was working with. Mm-hmm. So I did have like some elements of, again, rather untraditional ways into dramaturgy. I got the opportunity to meet and work with a professional dramaturg in undergrad who kind of like gave me the like aha moment of, oh, that's what I've been doing this whole time, in a weird way, but in a way, you know, which was really fantastic. And the shaping of it through actual play has again just kind of come from necessity, I think, like as the desire for the story and everyone at the table has shifted, like, and I think this is like very prevalent. I don't think that dramaturgy makes sense for every table, because every table in actual play is so different. And I know some folks and like some tables are really, really interested in like friends at a table style of gameplay is what I like to call it, of like, this is about gaming, this is about playing a game, it is about improv. It is not necessarily about art, even though story and even beautiful, meaningful, resonant stories can come out of those tables. It's not necessarily the intention or the direction. Yeah. And there are a lot of other tables that have something to say, that are story-focused, narratively focused, employ, again, strong mechanics, strong world building, improvisation, but also think about actual play like an art form. Yeah. And in those spaces, I think dramaturgy really thrives because there is a desire to have a strong and cogent narrative. And I think it is in the seeing of the desire from Connie, from everyone in Second Stranger, especially as we were bringing in more players, to be like, oh, like, we have something to say, and now there are a lot of people trying to, like, number one, have their own character arcs that cross with each other. This is like a years-long campaign at this point. Like, there's something that wants to be expressed here, and it just needs a little bit more support to be able to grow and to fly and to feel itself and to come into the power and the space and the clarity that it wants to. So that was when I was kind of like, okay, I actually know what to do here. Like, I know how to at least try to shape this. And I want to see like what's percolating for you too. But I think the way that dramaturgy functions in actual play is very different from the way it functions in theater.
Yeah, I completely agree, especially depending on like what the format is. Like I know for Transplaner, you guys have much longer formats. Maybe like this newer season for Chaos Protocol, it's broken into seasons because of like you guys change games from season to season, location to location. But like I believe for like your original like title like game, it was like long form. You had like how many, like over
200 something? See? Like 100, like close to 200 episodes total.
Yeah, and I think for a long form game that like maybe like this is not so much disagreeing with like what you said earlier, but like even if it's like Friends at the Table, when you get to like 200 episodes, you're gonna need to at least tell a story, right? You can't just like be like, hey, it's us again for the 200th
time for the next dungeon.
Yeah, like let's hang out. Like
dungeon as always.
Exactly. Like at some point you're gonna have to tell a story, and I think dramaturgy does help with it. I mean, like we already know about Danny Carr from, let's say, Critical Role, who is their lore keeper. That's just a step. I wouldn't even say that like that's a step below. I think that's just the same thing.
Like a parallel step, really.
It's a parallel step. Like it just doesn't. It takes the context of everything and tells, like, keeps record of everything. But you know, dramaturge feels like a position that takes a step further and not necessarily steers or guides, but kind of like opens doors and possibilities of like, you can tell these stories through these lenses, through what's happening right now, especially when they know what's going on and what the train of thought has been so far. And I think it's so interesting. Like, again, like for short form, it still works. I mean, for Bad House, I guess we do kind of like long form, short form, where it's like a single universe, but it's different kind
multiple
of like
stories in that universe.
Exactly. But like, you know, you have the lore keeper that just like takes stock of what's going on, and then dramaturgy comes in when we want to tell the story, what we want to tell, which honestly is just so beneficial for just playing a game. It just brings out like it brings out that zest, that like juice, that like essence of that actual play, which, you know, evidently with why am I blanking? You guys won an award for the God Killer show. Please remind me again. Last Hope. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. There's just so.
You're so fine. There's so many.
There's so many God Killer games that came out. That's not a bad thing. Just saying, not a bad thing. But like, it's hard for my autistic brain to remember every single one with.
Because they have all the same format. It's God Killer Word, you know?
God Killer Word or Word.
Yep.
But yeah, I think you guys really nail it in the head. How did dramaturgy work with, how did it differ between Second Stranger, then Last Hope, and then Chaos Protocol?
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic question. So, and even what you were saying about Danny Carr and lore keeping is that, like, for Second Stranger, I wasn't dramaturg on that production until like midway through the series. So around like arc 5-ish. Because again, like, Connie had a story going, knew what they were doing, like had a direction, had strong themes. But something that I really love about dramaturgy, generally speaking, is also that it decentralizes the workload of the storyteller. Because I think, like, I will say this, I have said this, I will continue to say it forever, is that most people are already doing dramaturgy or doing dramaturgical work in many different ways, but so much of that work is in the GM's prep of being able to know like where spotlight goes, weaving in backstories to plot, like all of that stuff is dramaturgical work. Yeah. But it also takes a lot to know, like, especially when we brought in 4 new players in the middle of Stranger, that like, okay, there are 8 players now. Everyone has a personal character arc that is deeply rooted and tied to not only the world in terms of backstory, but also like forward story. Like all of these people have important connections to the world that drive them through the story. And so at some point it just kind of became a necessity of like, Connie literally couldn't do it alone because it's not possible to do it alone. Yeah. Right? At that level of story. And I think like most GMs would benefit from being able to share a workload like that, especially creative workload. So for Second Stranger, it just kind of became a like, okay, see, like, I need to focus on session prep. Could you just like touch base with everyone to see like what people want for next session, like where they're going, how they're feeling about stuff? And then I was like, yeah, I can. And then it became a like, okay, like where are you going in this character arc? Like all of this has happened so far. How is your character feeling about it? Because so much of dramaturgy is scheming. Is scheming with your friends and DMs going like, ooh, what if in the next episode we did this? And how would it play against like Lolly's backstory? Ooh, like what about if we had this moment with Gentle, right? Like there are these fantastic moments where you're scheming. That's dramaturgy, right? Mm-hmm. And then I get to take all of that and be like, okay, Connie, in your session prep, can you keep in mind that these 2 characters are in conflict together, but we're feeling like we're really ready to find the resolution. So could we have a scene for that? And that scene basically is folded into and braided into the session structure. And that kind of is how the rhythm of Stranger started moving, which was in some ways difficult. And this is where we'll get into like the places of difference, because I was also a player. Yeah. And there were some things for Connie that felt sacred and secret and important to keep sacred and secret for Stranger, just because it had been 4 arcs. Like in arc 4, Connie pulls one of the greatest murder mysteries on me, where I didn't see it fucking coming. None of us saw it coming. Is one of my favorite moments in like any actual play I've ever done, when I fucking finally realized what was going on. But like those moments were really part of the table culture and part of the story. And so like kind of by the end, it was a little bit like I really just had to root in like where I was and balance what I knew versus like what I didn't know versus what I knew the themes were versus what like where we wanted to go. And by the end of Second Stranger, like all of us kind of came together, because we always do session zeros in between our like we do 16 episodes and we take a break. We call them arcs. Those are our seasons. Same thing with Chaos, but like we go to different worlds in every arc. In Stranger, we stayed in the same one, where it was all like, okay, here's the end. Here's what I want the end to be. That Connie like brought forth to the table, and everyone was able to be like, okay, I want my character arc to end this way. This is the end of like a 3-year-long story. Like I have strong desires about how I want to close this out. Let's talk about it. Let's find cohesion. Let's find acknowledgement. Let's figure out what we want to do. And now let's execute. And that, I think, is one of the strongest and most powerful lessons that I learned dramaturging Stranger, that really works. And in a lot of ways, like, let me shift here, going into sport mode. I'm going to talk about Chaos very briefly, because Chaos is, I think, the most, I'm going to say choreographed, because I think the actual play and tabletop space kind of at large is very afraid of the word scripted. Yes. And there's no part of Chaos that's scripted, right? Like it is an improvisational game. However, we are all very deeply aware of the story that we're telling and particular very important plot beats
Yeah.
that we want to hit. Major spoilers for the end of Arc 1 of the Chaos Protocol, starting now.
Starting now. So if you
starting-
want, we'll put a timestamp down if you want to like skip all that. But this is your final warning. Spoilers.
Final warning.
For
I'm about to spoil the end of Arc 1 of the Chaos Protocol right here and now. Because the story of the Chaos Protocol is about grief. And it is about the death of Sing, the Chosen One. She dies at the end of Arc 1. And it is integral, part of the themes, part of the story for all 8 arcs are about grief, right? They are about dealing with loss. They are about dealing with many losses, many griefs, but in particular hers, right? The death of the Chosen One. And we needed everyone to be on board with that because that's kind of a huge thing to throw at the table, right? And I think that there are places where maybe that could have worked, but also maybe that could have really backfired, in a lot of ways. Even thinking about general like table safety, right? Because we designed the series with Sing in mind that she is Sayur's brother, she's Lumira's lover, and she is Xynan's like protege, mentee, right? Like daughter figure. So those are huge losses. So being able to step in and say like, okay, everyone, she's gonna die. The story is about how she dies. Number one, are you down for that? Are you down for this story? And number two, now that we all know that major road stop, this major plot beat that informs how the entire story goes, now we get to play it. And I think this is kind of where the spoilers end, where I won't talk about anything else. But once we know those major plot beats, we're able to play into them and play into them very strongly, knowing what's coming, knowing not necessarily how it's going to happen, not knowing necessarily like what we're going to say when it happens, how we're going to play it when it happens, but knowing that it happens informs basically the entire shape of the story, informs your character arc, informs how you want relations to play out, informs when you want relationships to play out, right? And I think like that kind of structure I think of as choreography, again, because of my dancer brain, but also because like I'm not telling you how you move across the stage. I'm just telling you that that's where you're going. And for me, like that is the shape.
Here's your mark.
Here's the mark.
You need to get here. How you do it is up to you, but just remember the mark. Yeah.
Just remember the mark. And it's up to you. And it is my job, my duty, and my favorite fucking thing in the world to be able to help you get there in the way that you want to get there.
Yeah.
So kind of what I say in terms of like actual play dramaturgy is that it is my job to help you tell your story to the best of your ability.
Yeah.
Right? It's never me deciding what the best story for you is. It's me saying, okay, we've talked about how this character feels like a monster. How can we best get into that in that moment? Can we have a moment where in reaction to this plot thing that happens, you can shrink away, right? To like really get into that interior vulnerability, right? Are there moments where you lash out at the other players? Like, ooh, how do we make that work, right? How do we make that complex? It's not about what I necessarily think is best to get you there. It's supporting each player's vision and the GM's vision, the storyteller's vision of what they want the performance to be, really. And it's okay, well, you need to come into the spotlight for this moment, or like, oh, like you really wanted to play into the quality of introspection here. So let's talk about the strongest ways that you can find introspection here. And that like becomes a very delicious like craft kind of practice. Craft and artistic practice, like hand in hand, really.
Yeah, I don't think I did that at the beginning of like my like actual play journey. Definitely it took a while, and I think I started doing that with maybe Madness Over Manila, where I had to do it. I had to do dramaturgy. I had to I had to put everything on rails because I had 2 casts, 5 episodes each in different timelines. Like 10 years apart, where I had to be like, okay, this is how things are gonna move. So yeah, I think there is like that like whole taboo of like, we can't
like,
be
oh
scripted.
no, you can't be on rails, we're scripted. No,
this separates friends at the table storytelling and like actual, like, I wouldn't say actual storytelling, but like thoughtful storytelling. Because we are actually intentional, because we're thinking of like where we want to go. There is a beat, there is a core to the story. Midnight Rush, for instance, our last show that I GM'd, the whole story was about found family struggling in an economy that is built against the players. These are 20-somethings that have nothing and are exploited and are now finding together, finding a sense of family, and fighting back to just survive. And like the things we do just to like live day by day, and the things that we learn as we're doing things. So like definitely there was like a lot of I wouldn't say hand holding, but there was a lot of conversations between me and the players where it's like, where do you want to go? Where do you see your character going? And like I present them with like a few options, like you can do this, you can do this. These are things that are possible in the world. And I was just surprised at what the things that they did. Ambrose ended up as a vampire in the end of the show. I was surprised. So yeah, definitely. I should have spoilered that, but it's whatever.
Surprise spoiler.
Surprise spoiler. Watch it so you know how it happened. But yeah, it definitely changes the trajectory of storytelling. When you are more intentional and thoughtful about your direction. So we kind of like touched on it while you were like speaking, but like, what can people do, either if they're doing actual play, if they're doing theater, or if they're doing just a home game? How can people like start to dramaturge for like a game?
I just every question I get so excited about because I love my favorite topic. You can do dramaturgy, and let me say you've already been doing it. Is how I'd feel. Genuinely, I think a lot of tables, especially for people who are even remotely interested in telling stories in this way, because again, you don't have to be interested. Like if it doesn't apply, it doesn't apply. That's totally fine, right? But if you're already interested, I am so certain that you've kind of already been doing it. And I think the kind of thing that we've been dancing around in a fun way in this conversation is, how does one start to dramaturg? Have a conversation. Whether that is you as a player, you starting a brand new thing, you as a showrunner, you as the GM, the storyteller, the narrator, whatever role that you have. Dramaturgy, I think, is something that needs to be like, to work well. I think everyone kind of needs to be on the same page about bringing dramaturgy in. So I really enjoy the kind of like slow but sure table culture shift that I've been seeing. And I implore more showrunners to do this, to have, number one, strong themes in their show, a strong narrative when they're even like pitching to players of like, I'm telling a very specific type of story. I have something that I want to say, and I want to say it with you. Is this something that aligns with what you want to say? And people being able to self-select and be like, yeah, that is a story that resonates with me. I also have something to say about this. If it's aligned with what you have to say about this, then let's go. Because again, dramaturgy doesn't work at every table, and not every table has the values of wanting to tell an intentional story, of wanting to do like multiple more hours of work per week to be able to like be ready and feel good for your episode. It definitely takes a lot of work, but I think it is incredibly worthwhile to just start the process of dramaturgy is also to work very closely with the showrunner / GM / storyteller, which I'll just kind of shorthand GM for now. Because I think the dramaturg's role is also to bring all of those conversations to the GM, who ideally wants to braid those things in, who has strong but flexible ideas about their world, about their story, about the narrative. Something that we say at Transplaner, kind of like a core cornerstone for our craft, is strong ideas loosely held. That everyone has strong ideas, has passion, has drive, has commitment to the story, has interest in the story, but those strong ideas are all loosely held. They're flexible. They can be interpreted moment to moment, change to change. They can be reinterpreted and understood through the process of the story. So laying the foundation of kind of table culture and expectations is, I think, like the true and honest first step of dramaturgy. And that from there, really, it becomes figuring out what your practice is like. I've dramaturged for like multiple different shows at this point, and every time I do it, it's different. So the way that I dramaturg for Chaos is very different from the way that I dramaturg for Laurie's House, for example. And every player that I work with and every storyteller that I work with is also very different. So the way that I dramaturg for Connie is very different from the way that I dramaturg for Kai, which is very different from the way that I dramaturg for Zoe, for Sam, for Val, like anyone who comes into the Chaos space, or like any of the other works that I've dramaturged for. So I think, like, again, kind of a first step to dramaturgy and to being the dramaturg is to practice and to start developing your own process for how you talk and think about art. And like, there are multiple different practices of, like I said, dramaturgy haunts me. So having and developing strong, like, artistic thoughts about art is a great place to start. So even if you are not necessarily confident in your dramaturgy, like watch a season of a TV show and think about how these stories, delve into, like, what is this character's drive? What are their motivations? What are their flaws? What are their strengths? How do they how are they in conflict with the plot? How are they in conflict with other characters? Is that successful, or are the writers bad at writing women? Right? And learn to develop a kind of literary analysis for yourself and have a strong voice, because I think there's something to confidence too. You have to also be able to step into the room as your dramaturg and say, like, I know what it is you're trying to do, and I know how we can push that to be even stronger. I know I can weave it in my mind too, of like, I know what the GM is bringing into this next session. This is a great place for your character to like lash out at others. It's time in the story to see that, because we've seen some growth. It's time for a backslide, right? Like the episode 7 out of 8 backslide, baby. That's my favorite thing. And kind of developing a strong voice, again, strong ideas loosely held. And that comes in of a character being like, actually, like, I think that moment of conflict might actually like do more harm than good, and I don't know if I'd have the time or the latitude to be able to meaningfully walk that back or find growth for my character. And I'd be like, you know what, you're so right. Maybe we can find a good halfway point where you feel the urge to lash out, but we can see how you've grown in that moment, right? And a kind of rapport with the person that you're at the table with, because again, like I mentioned, everything is different. Sam and I just scream feral ideas at each other until the dramaturgy's done, right? And sometimes it's kind of like a bullet point list of like, okay, here is exactly where my character was in their mind space in the last episode, and what are we doing in this next episode? Okay, I think I know where I want them to go, but I'm not sure. How do you think this would read? And both are so fruitful and both are so good, but it does take some practice too, to number one, like meet the cast on their own terms, figure it out, and figure out how to say and how to like be that kind of guidepost, and help frame and help strengthen, and engaging with any type of media, especially like other actual play, other like people working in the medium that you like, to like watch an actual play show that you like, go watch Midnight Rush, you know, and go see like how good it is, and be like, okay, what worked here? Is there a way it could be stronger? How would I speak that into existence? How would I try to help form that, if at all? Right. Like, and to learn that way. And it takes time and effort, but it doesn't start until you start doing it, really. Yeah.
And I think it's also one of the most underrated things that I like don't necessarily feel from a lot, like experience from a lot of like other tables, is like the sometimes we call it the cool down, sometimes we call it
the decompression.
Like these are wonderful tools to actually talk about, like, you know, where you want to bring things next. Like you mentioned earlier, where like, you know, like loose, like what was that? Strong ideas loosely held, I think is a perfect way to put a method of play, because I've seen like a bunch of times where like people would, you know, have these ideas of like, this is what my character would be, this is like the direction that they're going, and then somebody says something, just one thing, just one line, a character says one line to that character, and it changes their whole outlook, and it changes their whole trajectory. And you know, having decompression like that just kind of like strengthens the narrative, but also gives you a stronger sense of like where to go, what to do. And like, dramaturgy is just beautiful. Like
I love it.
Yeah, me too. Like ever since I've learned that, I forgot who mentioned it to me. It's like, oh, C is the dramaturge for Transplaner. I was like, what the hell is that? And they explained it to me. I was like, we've been doing this all wrong. And then we kind of like did like shifted in a way of like, I think my biggest problem back in the day when I was starting in actual play, and even in like just regular home games, was I was too afraid to be that GM of like, oh, I'm too on the rails, I spoon feed too much, I railroad too much. No, railroad the shit out of your players.
It matters. It matters so much. I'm right there. I'm right there with you, Fabs. Because I think like it is a weird kind of actual play culture thing to be like, oh, you know, like it's what I would call the, oh my god, I've forgotten the name of the very famous podcast, the McElroy brothers.
What is that?
Their
the
show.
Adventure Zone.
Yes, the Adventure Zone, where it's like, oh, it was a hee hee ha ha, and then it turned into this beautiful narrative by accident, and that kind of is like the way that a lot of the table culture goes. They're like, oh yeah, the Critical Role people are just doing improv, and I'm like, yes, and like I could just improvise a book. Like I could technically sit down and write a book not knowing where I'm going, but if I put extra story, if I put extra craft, if I put extra intention, if I put extra time, it is a better story. Not necessarily a better story, but it is a more intentional, more fulfilling for me type of story. And even as a player, I love when a GM is like, here are the themes of my show, here's what I want to say. That helps me, because I can wander aimlessly through a dungeon or through like I'm gonna, you know, I'm gonna be in this adventure. Woo! I'm gonna figure it out, and maybe I'll find something. But to be like, oh, you want to tell a story? I'm thinking about the Steward's War. It's like, oh, this is a story about people who are written in history as villains. Okay, I can go ham in this, right? Like I know
Yeah.
where to go now. Like as a player, it makes everything stronger. And as long as you're aligned with people who are like are playing at the same page, I have found that most players are actually really hungry for that because it makes a more meaningful story for the player too. I've
Yeah.
sat in the past at a lot of tables where I didn't find a fulfilling story for my character because there wasn't time, space, or room in the narrative.
Yeah.
And we weren't on guardrails or anything. It just kind of was unsatisfying in that way.
And as a
And
listener too, like you kind of
yes,
just like lose yourself in you get lost in the sandbox that what they're
yes,
trying to present. Like,
yes.
you know, the show and the players are all the way there and you're still like in this bucket. You're like, how did they get out of the bucket? Like,
Yeah.
you know,
It's like, what does it mean for that character to say that? I don't really know because it hasn't been teed up for me. And,
like, and I think a lot of like talking about table culture, a lot of people don't realize that like I struck gold with like the Critical Role and the Adventure Zone striking gold with narrative is because these are friends who like Critical Role are friends who know each other for years, and the McElroys are a whole family,
quite literally family,
literally family,
quite literally related to each other,
who have known each other their whole lives, and these people can easily understand. Like the GM, whoever's GMing that group, understands what's
important,
what's important to each person, what their expectations are, and they can steer kind of them in a way like that's like that's not
it's
lightning
a happy
in a
accident.
bottle. Yeah, it's not. It's not even a happy accident. It's a calculated decision by the GM. Like, I know this person. I know what they would like, and I'm gonna give it to them. I think one of the biggest one of the obvious but biggest reveals in Critical Role was like, oh, Scanlan has a daughter. Like, and like I saw that a mile away when in campaign 1, and it was a wonderful kind of narrative. But also, like, if you tell me that wasn't planned by Matt, like months, years in advance, you're lying. You're lying to yourself.
Yeah.
You know,
the GM does so much dramaturgy, but it's just in a tiny little box.
Exactly.
It's just in a tiny little box.
It's
You're
those
already
little
doing
pages of their notebook. But yeah, you know, you have perfect points, and like I had another question here, but we already breezed through that. Like we already talked through that. Like it's very simple to get into dramaturgy without even knowing. And you know, I think Connie is talented. Like I think Connie has one of the most poetic ways of GMing in the space. They bring a lot of flowery words that lull you in a sense of like comfort, and then hit you with a bat to the head.
Baseball bat. Yep.
Yeah. But like, you know, I think the dramaturgy, people may not see it, but the beauty of Second Stranger and the ending that you have is all thanks to all the work that you and Connie. And if you are listening right now and you're planning to do an actual play or planning to do the home game, or you're currently doing those things, we hope you realize that dramaturgy is already a part of your game planning, and lean into the skid. Don't be afraid to kind of just give into the rails, because your story and your players will think. Any final words about dramaturgy that you want to impart to our listeners and viewers out there?
Ooh. Yes. it's kind of like my closing advice, closing remarks for people who are curious about dramaturgy, who are even curious about kind of like moving their actual play into a space where it is like narrative focused, intentional, full of art, is don't be afraid to care, right? Because really, like, dramaturgy just kind of formalizes your desires and interests as a performer. It just is the thing that is like the official name for the love that you have, for the intention that you have, for the work that you're putting into the thing that you have. And I think that there's so much of a like cringe culture of, you know, like, oh no, I can't care. Like, oh no, I can't put 1,000 years into this. I can't be only thinking about my OC. Like, what if nobody likes it? What if, you know, don't. You're doing yourself and your story and your table a disservice, right? It's important to care about something, and this is a way to show the care not just to the story you're telling, but to your players, to say, I care about how you move through this space. I care about you making sure that you tell the story that you want to tell in this show. What is it? Let me help you. Let's do it. I want it to come out. I don't just want it to come out where we know it happened. I want the audience to hear and see you also. And don't be afraid to care viciously and loudly, as loud as you can. That's that's the heart of it.
Cannot agree.
Yeah.
Yep. Just, if you guys are listening to this, thank you. But also, hopefully, what we've spoken about today, you can apply to your own shows, games. And hey, if you're in theater and you listen to this and you still haven't really like gotten the grasp of it, hopefully we were able to give you an idea.
Yeah.
But again, thank you. See, where can they find you, your work, everything, please?
I'd be happy to. Thank you so much, Fabs. This is an absolutely fantastic conversation. And I hope that it brings knowledge and confidence to anyone who is looking for it. Like I said earlier, my name is C. I use they, them pronouns. You can find me making very trans, very gay art on the internet, kind of across social media platforms at C Plays RPG. You can also find me always as the resident wearer of many hats, co-producer, assistant director, and dramaturg and performer over on Transplanter RPG. By the time this comes out, we will have premiered Arc 4, which is the midpoint. And I've been saying that this is the arc that hits you in the head with a bat. The arc that kicks you in the head with a boot.
Yeah.
So
Get
if
maximum
you're into that,
overdrive by the narrative.
Get your ass beat by the narrative. If you're into that, which I know you are if you're listening to Bad House, come and stop by every Saturday at 8 p.m. US Eastern Time at Transplanter RPG, YouTube, Twitch. We're also uploading on Vimeo and Internet Archive right now. All the backlog, but there's like I said, there's like 200 episodes. We're getting there. We're getting there.
I hear you. We're backlogging a lot of stuff to audio podcasts as well. I hear you. Anyway, thank you so much. C. My name is Fabian. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again next time. Peace.
See you next time.